What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. As always, I am PK with my co-host who's back from vacation, Phil. 385. We waited a day. Somebody wanted an extra day of vacation sitting over there, but I guess it's a good thing we did because we got a jam-packed show. We got Bills off the bye. We're going to be talking about top trade for players and what the deal might look like, if there is any. We got the Sabres, went 2-1 since the last time we talked. I killed and dead and buried them on the last show, but some positives here. They're still dead, but maybe we've been hearing some scratching on the inside of the coffin. And then some big NLL news. I don't know if you've been living under a rock, but it's been absolutely insane. My phone's literally right here, so if I'm looking down, deals are just flying through. So before we dive in, remember you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Still waiting on you, producer Pat. Had you on the last show, put the pressure on you. Still waiting. And then look for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. Last week we talked about producer Pat coming home from London. This time we got co-host Phil coming home from Maine. So, Phil, what did you do this last 2 weeks since last time we talked to you?
Yeah, I'll mainly go over Maine. I'll try to make it quick-ish. We spent 3 days in Maine, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of last week. And Tuesday kind of just hung around the little Bar Harbor, Maine area. Wednesday, we went to Katy National Park and spent the whole day there. Enjoyed the rocky coast and the giant waves and the big rocks and climbing all over things. Was a really good time. Katy was very pretty. The whole area was...
Puffins?
No puffins. It was not their time. They are a spring/summer bird/penguin looking thing. I did end up getting a puffin shirt, though, because it looked adorable. But... yeah, Katy was really pretty. The whole area was really, really nice looking for fall. All the leaves changing and all that looked really nice. And then went on a quick little ghost tour while it was raining. That was interesting. It wasn't as spooky as I wanted, but it was all right. Then we did a little shopping on Thursday. It was rainy and cold that day, so it was a good day to be inside some shops. But for the most part, the weather went really well. And the trip was really nice. It was nice to get away, and it was definitely the farthest. I used to go on motorhome excursions or trips with my family, but I would always sleep in the back of the motorhome. I was never awake or had to deal with driving. And on the way back, the wife and I spent an 11.5-hour straight drive all the way through with very minimal stops. It was a lot. And we have never done that. It's the most I think I've ever driven straight in my life. She did most of the driving. I think I drove 5 to 6 hours somewhere in there straight, and that's the most I've ever driven in one shot. But being in a car for pretty much 11.5 hours was a very, very long day, and we were happy to finally be home after that.
My biggest question, I got two questions. First, were you starting to see like there's a thing called like I can't remember exactly what it is, but you start seeing things on the road when you drive too much?
No, we were okay.
Okay. I know that's a thing. I drive to Albany and back twice a year. That's like 4.5 hours there, 4.5 hours back. So it's kind of like that. I made the trip to Vermont, which I think is like 6.5, 7 hours, something like that. So I've been in your shoes, not 11, maybe one day, but. So you didn't see ghosts or anything on the road. That's good. You guys are also not distracted drivers like I am, so that probably went over easier. Second question is, how are the cats? Because everybody knows I watched the cats last week. What they don't know is you and the wife scared the crap out of me. Yeah, that wasn't funny. Wasn't prepared for just voices. And then, boom, there's voices in the house. And I'm only supposed to be in the house alone.
Yeah, we have 2 cameras in the main living room. One that gives treats out and one
that was shot I thought it was on a timer. There's just this treat that shot across the room and a noise. I thought it was just a timed out thing. Apparently, that was the warning shot of being scared.
Yeah, you can talk through it, and you can also listen to what's going on. So we briefly talked to PK on the camera, which he did not know was a thing. So PK got more of a ghost tour than I did through
Big time.
through that. That was fun for us, but it was no, they're good. They're all good. They're all happy. We did find out. The youngest one is still found out today that he is still finding his way into the basement ceiling above the drop ceiling, which is really impressive because he's a small cat, but he's grown up since his kitten days. So we Ashley went downstairs looking for him and saw him crawling out of the ceiling, and she was like, "You got to be kidding me!"
I didn't check to look there.
Yeah,
I was
no.
looking all over the basement because I remember the one time one of your cats was behind the water heater. So I was like,
Yes.
oh, maybe one got back there, and nope. So they were literally above me the whole time.
Yeah, could have been the ceiling. Could have been the ceiling.
But for me, not much went on. This was a quieter week. Bad weather. At least now it's raining nonstop. Family dinner last Thursday. Was on Talking Buffalo randomly on last Wednesday after the one Sabres game. Weren't expecting to talk about an 8-4 victory, which we'll talk about here. But it was nice catching up with Pat Moran. Hadn't been on in a while, so shout out to him for letting me on the show. And then we've been watching my sister's dog, Shelby, sister-in-law's dog, Shelby, again through Sunday. And instead of 6 dogs this time, we're down to 4. But the little girl over there just got an application in the mail we're going through. So she could be up and out of here. Not that we're pushing any day now. I think we got a meet and greet next Tuesday, maybe. I don't know. That's the
Very
wife's
nice.
jobs.
Very nice.
But we'll move forward since we got a ton to go over. Bills were on bye, so we didn't have to worry about another loss. You didn't have to deal with the Atlanta Falcons loss. And as producer Pat, I wasn't very happy about it. They're not a good football team right now. And I guess the biggest question I have for you, we kind of went over all the possibilities of the traded players or possible trade candidate players out on the market right now. I don't really see much. Pat Moran kind of asked me this question when we were on last Wednesday, and it got me thinking. That's part of the reason we have this topic on now is where do they really need to add? And to me, it's like 3 positions. It's wide receiver, because joke's on you, Brandon Bean. You don't actually have a good wide receiver room. Cornerback, because Trey White is cooked. Christian Benford isn't playing up to his level. Dorian Strong, who I was high on, has a neck injury, and who knows if he's going to play again this year. And Max Harrison just got his practice window opened up. I do not expect to see him in any type of capacity for the next 3 weeks, maybe longer. He might be a healthy scratch when he's activated, and even then, who knows when he's going to be relied upon. So the quarterback room is an absolute mess. And then the safety room just is god-awful. They're going to rely on Jordan Poyer to come back. I guess to me, my question to you is there a tier ranking of positions you think they need to target? And if so, are there any trade candidates out there that you think Buffalo might trade for?
Yeah, that's part of the problem I have with this trade coming up, trade deadline. There it is. Jeez. The big thing for me, they have
Less than 2 weeks.
They have $2.5 million in the cap space. Yes, I'm sure they can make some wiggle room here and there if they need to, but in general, they have like no cap space to do anything. And like you just mentioned, like to me, you have safety, cornerback, defensive tackle, linebacker, and wide receiver. Yes, there's definitely some more pressing needs and in that list. Like there's a hierarchy of how those positions go, but at this point, for a Super Bowl contending team or whatever you want to call them, to have that many needs at the trade deadline and no cap space to really make it happen is very scary. I don't know what, if anything, they're really going to be able to do. I'm sure they can make some moves and make some cap space here and there, but I don't love what they have going on in general. Like this team, I don't know, they just don't look settled or ready for any kind of deep playoff run at all, and it doesn't look like there's any one player they can bring in and be like, okay, there it is. Like, that's the guy, that's all they need, and they're good. Like, I feel like in years past, you've waited at trade deadline, and maybe they bring in this position or that position. Like, you just are looking for that one guy that can make a difference and put them over the hump. This year, it seems like they have holes all over the place, and it's not great looking. I don't know. Personally, with everything I just listed, I'd like them to go defense because I think, as much as I really want a wide receiver, and the offense definitely needs some help. I mean, you have arguably 4 defensive positions that also need help, so it seems like your defense has more holes than your offense. Your offense has Josh Allen, your defense does not. So as much as I really want a wide receiver, and there's one that I think I would go after, I think the defensive area is more important. I've seen Tariq Woolen a lot out there from Seattle as a cornerback potential guy who was a little bit younger, had some really good abilities, and has just kind of fallen through with Seattle. At the same time, they're saying he's not going anywhere, but I'm sure if you make some kind of moves, you can maybe free up a player like that. But cornerback seems to be a huge hole. Safety, like you said, seems to be a huge hole. If I had to go wide receiver personally, I think I'd like Rashid Shaheed from New Orleans as a trade candidate as well. I think he's kind of what they need. I think Chris Olave is just, I know we've seen some rumors and whatnot. I think he's way, way too high profile for them to be bringing in. If they do, good for them. I don't see it happening. I think Rashid Shaheed's kind of more of what they're looking for, that field stretcher who can do a few other things. He's had some really, really big games in a team that's not very good. So give him Josh Allen, and maybe they can actually make him do some things that he hasn't been able to do in New Orleans, be a little bit more consistent. The only other thing I saw, which I thought was interesting, as far as free agents out there, I don't think this is a great one by any means, but their safety room is a joke. CJ Gardner-Johnson just kind of chilling out there right now.
He's been all over.
Yes, he's been all over. He hasn't been able to stay anywhere. I think he was with the Ravens for like a week, and that was it. So not saying he's great by any means, not saying he'd be anything all that special, but the Bills are really lacking in that area. So if you can get someone who used to be good, give him a shot, maybe you can find a way to boost him back to what he was for something super, super cheap. I think that would be something. I don't know. I feel like they got to do something between free agents and trades. They're not looking as good as I would like them to look.
Yeah, I told you I was going to be looking at my phone. Another free agent just signed. I added it to our list to go over. But I kind of went over this with Pat Moran. To me, they need to add on to offense because there's too many holes on defense. Like you said, there's not just one piece on defense.
That's especially a fair way to look at it.
Especially after drafting 1 through 6 all defensive side. And I know injuries, you can't control them, but still. So I would like them to attack the offensive side of the ball. Pat Moran kind of mentioned, Brandon Beane, his ego might get in the way of, hey, my wide receiver room is good enough. I do think Rashid Shaheed should be the target, but if I'm New Orleans, I'd extend him. I'd extend Chris Olave. Then you got the base for the next quarterback that you bring in. It just makes too much sense. I wouldn't really add on defense because it's kind of like putting a Band-Aid over
make your strength your true strength and just try to win by racking up the points. That makes sense.
Yeah, putting a piece on defense to me from the outside is kind of like putting a bandage over a bullet wound. It's really not going to do much. Again, that's why I wouldn't have paid Gregory Rousseau, but Christian Benford and Terrell Bernard haven't also panned out as well. What I think is actually going to happen, again, completely agree with Shaheed. I just don't think that makes sense for New Orleans, but maybe they do pull a rabbit out of a hat. I think if anywhere, it's going to be cornerback, just because there's so many people out there. But I don't think they're going to touch the safety room just because of how important that is to Sean McDermott and how valuable they think that is. That's why they keep bringing back Micah Hyde. That's why they brought back Jordan Poyer. They think that the safety room, you need to know the playbook in and out to play that room. And for some reason, they love Taylor Rapp. And I get Cole Bishop has his highs and lows. I don't think they're touching the cornerback room. I think Max Harrison, when he comes back at some point, he's going to be their reinforcements. I can hear them saying right now, Max Harrison is going to be our trade for piece at the deadline here. And wide receivers, pass catchers, I should say, they're going to say that, hey, we really struggled when Dalton Kincaid wasn't on the field. I like Dalton Kincaid this year. I think he has taken that next step. The issue with Dalton Kincaid right now is he can't stay on the field. Last year, that catch was missed because they claimed his knee was too injured to make that turn. 360 turn just to come back a little bit for the ball. But to me, I can hear them saying, I can hear that happening. I know that they can restructure and the cap's not real type of thing, so they can free up money if they need to. I don't see them making that type of deal, which is kind of disappointing. I think this is the team that we're going to ride with. I think they can make the adjustments necessary. I still think they win the division. To me, it's, and you said it in your bold prediction, Buffalo's not making it to the Super Bowl and definitely not winning the Super Bowl. They're, to me, at this moment, leaning more like a one-and-done type of team. And for everybody that's been saying hey, it's a 2-game losing streak, this goes beyond the 2 losses. They have not looked good in the majority of the games. They've had one good half versus Baltimore. So throw out this whole,
Right.
2-game losing streak. Yeah, it's 2 games in a row, but the play on the field has been 6 games in a row. So
Right.
to me, that's been my main concern, or my main argument this week has been, oh, it's 2 games in a row. They'll right the ship. They've lost 2 games in a row in the past. The biggest thing is you haven't looked like this in the past. It's been bad all season, but that's kind of our trade candidates. We got a big show, so we're going to keep flying through this. Colts are 6-1. New England's leading the division. They're looking good, and Drake May's been fantastic. They're 5-2. Denver pulls, all these bananas out of their butt and somehow beats the Giants. It was unbelievable that finish. 5-2. They scored 33 points in the fourth quarter. It's insane. Pittsburgh sitting 4-2. Buffalo's 4-2. Chargers 4-3. Jacksonville's 4-3. And the sneaky little Kansas City Chiefs getting Rashee Rice back. They're sitting 4-3. It's a logjam. And I was talking to Pat Moran about it. I kind of ruled out the number 1 seed, but he mentioned if you look at the teams around them, the number 1 seed is still in grasp if they can turn this around. It's just 6 games in. They have not been able to manage that whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, that you just quickly look at, we talked about it a few weeks ago. The AFC looked wide open, and
yeah.
I do agree with you that it's still pretty open, but the Chiefs recently have looked like they
Colts
completely turned it around.
And
too. The Colts look good, and the Patriots look good. But the Chiefs, to me, obviously, they're always the team to beat, but they were faltering pretty early. They looked pretty bad early on, and now their defense looks ridiculous. They shut down the Lions. They were able to just get a shutout over the Raiders. And their offense is putting it together and getting healthy. So they're scary once again, which is very, very unfortunate. Patriots, I don't know. Like you said, I still think the Bills can win the division. I don't know if this is the Patriots' year, but they are growing quickly, and Drake May looks like the real deal there. And then, like you said, the Colts continue to be, talk about sneaky teams. They're 6-1, but no one's talking about them being a true contender or a true good team, but they're looking very good as well.
Yeah, 100%. But next game, 1 o'clock in Carolina. If you lose to Carolina, the city of Buffalo will burn down the new stadium. They will not sacrifice people to the pit. They will go out there and burn the new grass that's on the field. But we'll move on. Buffalo Sabres, we've been doing this super quick, and we're going to keep that up. They went 2-1 since the last time we talked. Wednesday versus Ottawa, 8-4 victory. They looked unbelievable. Absolutely loved it. Saturday versus Florida. I know Florida's very injured, but they won 3-0. And then Monday in Montreal, different story, lose 4-2. I got bits and pieces of all these games. Doan and Benson bringing back to that game. Their first game, or Benson's first game, I should say, was versus Ottawa last Wednesday. And I know it's well over a week ago, but too bad, so sad. They add these pieces to this team that this team doesn't have. They battle along the boards. They're the perfect addition to it. Benson, I didn't think he had it in him to perform the way he is right now, but he has taken the next step in his third year. Doan, secretly, quietly, a little assassin back there. Lyon continues to be the key of the game. Their power play and their penalty kill is absolutely filthy. Last Wednesday, 3 for 3 on the power play, 4 for 4 on the penalty kill. Saturday, 2 for 4 on the power play, 7 for 7 on the penalty kill. And then this last Monday, 0 for 1 on the power play, but 1 for 1 on the penalty kill. I thought Samuelson has looked good so far. Tage, to me, still looks slow and uninterested. He's got to start pouring it on. Tuck's got to do something. You saw a little bit of fight and toughness in this team now. I am still interested to see when Kesselring comes back what his addition to this lineup looks like, because it pushes everybody down. You see Samuelson playing those third-line minutes. Absolutely love it. I will say, though, their 5-on-5 scoring needs to pick up a bit, because Lyon has kept them in these games. They would not be sitting 2-4 if it wasn't Lyon. And the last bit, since we're flying through these, they need to come out a lot quicker than they have been doing. I think 4 of the 6 games they've been non-existent in the first period and then try to pour it on. That I only watched the first period because I was watching the Blue Jays game on Monday. I'll fully admit that. But the first period that I saw, they were no-shows versus Montreal. The second and third, I heard it picked up. But if you can actually come out and start playing the first period, what I've said for so long, just make these games entertaining. I don't care if you win or lose, as long as it's fun to watch. I'll start talking about this team a little bit more. They're 2-4. Still don't think they're making playoffs. Still dead and buried, but you're hearing a little bit of scratching, a little bit of squealing on their coffins. So, Phil, what are your thoughts on the Sabres so far?
Yeah, I forgot my power play bold prediction percentage. But they started 0 for 11, and you guys talked about it on the last show, and I was like, oh boy, here we go. And now they are up to 26.3% with the recent hot streak, and I think they're tied for 6th in the league. That is something we haven't said in a very, very long time. I don't care if it's super early in the season. Their power play has been atrocious no matter what time of year it is. So to say that they are up in 6th after starting 0 and 11 is really incredible. So if they can get that to be consistent, it doesn't need to be 3 for 3 on the power play every time, but that's been arguably their biggest weakness over the last couple of years outside of maybe goaltending. And if they can get that to be consistent, their 5-on-5 scoring hasn't been a problem. So if Tuck and if Thompson can really get it going and start being their normal selves, which is what you expect every year, and they can start being a little bit more productive on the 5-on-5. If the rest of the team can keep that power play going and the penalty kill going, and Lyon can look like he has been looking, which has been shocking. Not to be mean to him, but I think one of the biggest things we had going into the season was goaltending was going to be a massive issue for them, and he's been very, very steady. And I think that's something they haven't had for a long time. So power play looks up. Goaltending looks up. Those were two of the biggest things in the offseason that you were worried about. The even strength scoring, like you said, might be a little bit down, but that's something that should be able to correct itself because it hasn't been a problem in the past. Now, knowing the Sabres, that could just be something that is now a problem while they fixed other things because that seemed to be what they do all the time. But like you said, good to see them after an 0-3 start really pick it up, look really good, look like a fun team to watch. So not buying in by any means, but to have them play some fun hockey again, it was good to see. And one of the more interesting things that's kind of annoying is that it seems like Adams does a really, really good job or has done a really good job with the fourth line, the third line, these depth guys he's bringing in, he's changing them over, and it looks good. And even Doan looks like a really good addition to this team. And now it's kind of what we were worried about with the losing of Peterka, is that your top line and your top, team that needs your top forwards that need to do a really good job are now starting to struggle a little bit, and you're missing that true top 6 forward, kind of the top
Josh
2 lines.
Norris, busy getting hurt on face-offs.
The injury-plagued player that you picked up in a big trade who is now injured already. Not great. But if they can get healthy at some point, stay in the hunt, we'll see what it looks like. And talking too much about them already, but just some positive things, which is exciting because it hasn't been positive for a while.
Just keep the games interesting. We'll have this upbeat personality and talk when the games are interesting. It's been such a nightmare recently.
Yeah,
but
Mr. AHL starting tonight.
Yeah, Colton Ellis, I believe, is starting on Wednesday. So you guys will know the results before we do. Friday and Saturday, home and home versus Toronto. So that one should be fun as well. They moved the times to accommodate the Blue Jays. But before we dive into the massive NLL news and all the free agents that keep on signing, because my phone doesn't stop blowing up, we'll go over our first sponsor of the show, first and only, first ever, and they will always be near and dear to our heart. Tap That Tap Room at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York is Buffalo's first woman-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistently rotating taps. They offer a variety of beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
PK, we have your every week specials to fire up, starting with trivia on Wednesday, happy hour on Friday, DJ Nightlight on Friday night, and of course, the Bills game watch party this Sunday at 1 p.m. Don't forget about the jersey giveaway at halftime, plus $6 Angry Orchard and Twisted Tea. To find out more about their upcoming events, check out our reel coming out later this week. We got some pretty big events to discuss over there, or head to their Facebook page because they have something
for everyone.
And to find out what's on tap and what's on deck, head to tapthattaproom.com. He was still paying attention while looking at his phone. Try to trip him up. Couldn't
multitasking, man. I tried to trip up producer Pat last week. Didn't work. We'll move on since we got a massive second half of the show here. That's why we kind of went shorter in the first half. CBA is officially done. NLL is open for business once again. Free agency open on Tuesday at noon. So, Phil, thank you for extending your vacation. Why? One extra day, because we had nothing if we were recording on Tuesday night. Absolutely nothing but rumors. Now we got some legit talking points here. But before we get into the signings and all the rumor deals and all that fun stuff, want to give a shout out to everybody that got the CBA done. Yes, we were critical at times during this process and the steps that were taken. We were very up and down. I think majority of the people were up and down. Things were said between both parties that gave it thought that, hey, maybe the season really is in jeopardy, and then maybe it's not. I don't think I ever dropped below 50% that I thought the season was in desperate need, but it did get to the 50-50, like, oh, maybe really is going to be an issue. Now, do we think it could have handled, this whole process could have been handled better? Of course. But, we're not going to Monday morning quarterback this thing. I think we've already expressed our feelings on that topic, so we don't really have to dive into it too much, but maybe lesson learned, start negotiating a year in advance. At least have some framework done and don't start talking in September. I know we'll get into the reasons why. I understand the reasons why. I don't think I don't. But a deal is done. The season is on schedule. No missed games. And as Russell Wilson says, let's ride. Unless you're Sean Payton. He's got a little...
Or unless you're Russell Wilson.
Or unless you're Russell Wilson. Yeah, let's not mention Russell Wilson in this segment here. But big shout out to the NLLPA. They got the good and fair deal done for the players. Shout out to the Board of Governors and the owners. They were willing to work with the players. And don't think I do not doubt whatsoever that the majority of the teams are losing money. But if you didn't believe in the league, they wouldn't be around. And I think believing in the players, I think good negotiations from both sides ended up happening. So big shout out to both those sides. But the biggest shout out to me goes to Brett Fruit. And I have said on the past many, many times, I have loved just about everything that he has done for this league thus far, being in charge. But I also said that if he does not get this deal done and they start missing games, that's going to be a big mark on his legacy. So I think, the league saved 3 teams this offseason. As much as people don't want to admit it, I mean, Rochester was in jeopardy. They were able to sell that to the Seneca Nations. Philly's been rumored, and they're still in trouble right now, but Josiah is the reason that they're still in existence. And Albany was in big trouble. They moved to Oshawa, which I think is going to be a massive move. Now, I understand that is part of the reason the negotiations got to put on hold. It's kind of important to know how many teams are in there, and it's kind of important to save 75 jobs. So hats off to Brett Fruit for being able to do that. Hats off to everybody that was able to do that. But, everything got done. As much as we were critical on the process, I absolutely love that no games were missed whatsoever. Training camp is on schedule. Everything's still on schedule. Is there an overflux of everything happening right now? Yes. But I would rather have that than the last 3 months of trying to fill time here. So just massive flowers to everybody that was involved in this process. Absolutely love that it's gotten done, and absolutely fantastic that for a minimum of 3 more years, we don't have to do this crap again, that we have a normal offseason, at least part of our show, let alone the league itself. But Phil, what are your thoughts on the CBA getting done?
Yeah, I mean, more than anything, I mean, we just heard so much over the last, few weeks, few months that it was always going to be a big thing this summer. It was, pushing their way to getting it done. Then we heard a lot of negativity on both sides, a lot of stuff coming out that no one was really happy. Neither side was going to budge. It was going to get real nasty. And to see that kind of flip within kind of a week or two to, hey, it's actually getting pretty close, and then finally pushing it to get it done. I was never really concerned about the season being canceled. Delayed, yes.
Yeah.
I was slightly hoping for my own wallet that it would get a little delayed and get a little refund going, but I never really thought they were going to cancel the season. I think it would have been too judgmental to the league. I think if you cancel a season, there might not be a league. So I was never overly concerned about that, but delayed, yes, and to see them be able to get it done on time, and like you said, yes, everything's kind of a whirlwind right now, but to not have any missed games is massive for not even just the players, but also the people that work for these organizations.
Yes.
It's a lot of jobs that you're saving to, if you miss even, I think it was Lacrosse Classify was saying, like, the people that do the broadcasting for these games, if you start skipping games, they're skipping out on paychecks, which, it's not just the players and the coaches and the owners. Like, it trickles down to the entire organization and everybody that deals with the concessions on those games. Like, that's one less game that they get to work and all these kind of things. So really great to see them not have to miss any games. And it's going to be exciting to kind of deal with the whirlwind right now, but also start to turn our focus finally away from the CBA onto free agency and then onto a banner raising open night happening soon-ish.
Yeah. So once again, thank you to everyone that was involved, especially, I mean, I don't think we included them, but they need to be included, the insiders and the people that were dropping all these sources and the leak information,
Very
because
helpful.
it wasn't just Adam Levy this time. Dawson Nielsen was involved. You had Michael Carvelis was involved. There were multiple people out there that were involved in getting the transparency out to the fans that the league and the PA were willing or weren't able to do. And I can see both sides of that, why they wouldn't because of the negotiation tactics, but being able to have that information on hand, whatever way you want to look for it, I think that did push the sides to the negotiation table and get this deal over the hump. So massive thanks to all of them as well. Massive thanks to the board and governors, owners, players association, everybody involved getting this done, because I wasn't losing hair over it, but we were having conversations on what the heck this show was going to look like if there was a delayed season or no season at all, because we're a Bandit-centered show. And yes, we don't get paid for this. This is just a fun hobby, but I wanted to keep this up because I love the league and I love this podcast. So we'll dive into what this CBA kind of looks like. Now, it's a 5-year deal with opt-outs after years 4 and 5 if certain guidelines are not hit or guidelines are hit. So basically, if the league explodes, the league or the players can opt out. And if the league tanks, the owners or the players can opt out of it. It's pretty much guidelines. I think that's perfectly put. I think they built that in perfectly, that both sides just can't opt out for whatever reason they want. They can only opt out if these certain guidelines are met. It kind of pushes them to not look at the short-term version of it, but a long-term outlook on this, that, hey, the better the league this is, the better the negotiations can be moving forward, and the better the CBA will work out for us. But we're not going to talk money. We didn't talk about it before. We're not going to talk about it now because, to me, that's not that important. I know there's more money in the game now. You're kind of seeing with these free agents getting signed that there's more money being put out there for these players. But personally, I do not care. I just care about the the length of the deals that are signed, so we can kind of keep track of that. But it's kind of the players and the owners, that are invested in all this, and you're seeing both sides come together for it. But basically, all the players are likely to see a little bit of a bump. The salary cap and the floor are both increasing all years of this. There's no changes whatsoever to the 21 and 4 roster. I was a little bit disappointed to see that, but maybe later on. I think this one was a majority money type of CBA. Postseason. Right now, it's 7 games max. They have the option in the CBA to make that a 9-game playoff per team, which means that we could see a 3-3-3 format, so 3 games in the first round, 3 in the second, 3 in the finals, or a format that I like better, the 1-3-5, 5-game final, best of 5 in the final. That one would be fun. No changes of the schedule whatsoever. RFA status. Now, this is the thing that I was trying to get clarification on. We didn't, so we're just rolling with my knowledge on what I read in the CBA. RFA status goes from 3 years and 26 games played to 3 years and 30 games played. So that seems like a bit of concession from the player side. In return, the UFA status is now going to take effect in the second year of the CBA. So not this free agency period, the next one, next offseason. It went from the age 30 season and 6 seasons, or 8 years in the league, to age 29 and 6 completed seasons, or 8 completed seasons, or you turn 31. I think that is a big addition there as well. And then the last one here, the franchise tag. You can reject it. It used to be when you were 33. Now it's down to 32. They're slowly bringing it back. Or it's when you've been franchise tag 3 consecutive years. So Tyler Pace, ding, ding, ding. Christian Del Bianco, this would have been ding, ding, ding for you as well. So it seems like they're slowly working, the players' side of it is slowly working this better to hit free agency and be able to control your own destiny a little bit quicker in your career. So I think overall, without talking money, with all that aspects, because I read all that part, and it's just like, I do not care, because this really doesn't affect me. This doesn't affect what we talk about on the show. The main parts about this is it seems like teams are allowing players to hit free agency better based on the CBA, and I absolutely love that. The only knock I have is you didn't expand the practice squad or any of that kind of fun stuff, but maybe later. Maybe we got 3 years or 5 years or whenever to talk about that next. I'm just happy I don't have to deal with it again.
That's the only negative about it, though. You got to wait 4 or 5 years before we can talk about the practice squad again.
Maybe they'll negotiate something in the meantime.
Yeah, that'd be nice. A little opt out, a little adjustment in the CBA. That'd be great. Yeah, that's probably the biggest negative, I think, is that I do wish they would have opened up the rosters quite a bit more than they are. I mean, you look at teams like the Buffalo Bandits, who we'll talk about in a little bit, but normally their roster is stacked and there's just not a lot of room for them to have draft picks, and you can't keep doing that every single year. I know most teams don't have the ability to retain all of their talent, but it seems like the top teams have done a good job of retaining the talent that they have. And when you do that, you don't have a lot of room for new draft picks. So you just draft guys and nothing really happens with them. Hopefully you trade them for future picks, trade those picks away for the future. It just seems kind of, you're almost punished for having a good roster and nowhere to put players. So hopefully at some point that'll change. But overall, I do think it's a win for the players. Like you mentioned, I do wish they would have gotten to RFA and UFA a little bit quicker than even they did. It's not a massive adjustment, but I think when you're a player, it probably is a much bigger adjustment, and in a good way for them. And I think the franchise tag rejection is huge, so we don't have to worry about a Christian Del Bianco holdout for a whole season where you're losing a high-powered player because they don't want to come back and continually be franchise tagged over and over and over. So I think that's a really, really big one for the players and for the league, because you don't want to see players like that sitting out. You want to avoid that as much as possible. So even though to me, I think going to UFA even earlier makes more sense for the league just as a whole to see free agency explode and be a little bit different. I think it did get better for them, so it is a step in the right direction for the players. And overall, I think the changes they were able to make to the CBA does look pretty nice.
Yeah, I think, like we said, we're not really going to talk about the money aspect, all that kind of financing part of it, because we didn't talk about when we were at the negotiation table, fun little CBA talk. It really does not concern us whatsoever how much a player's making. We want them to get as much as they can. That's obvious. Same with like NFL and NHL and so much. Get the amount of money that you can while playing it, because your career is very short. But I don't care how much a Dane Smith's making. I don't care how much an Ian McKay is making. It really doesn't concern me at all, because I don't live with them. So I'm not expecting gifts at Christmas time to find out what it is. I just care about the term of it, the length of the term of the deal, and when they can all reach this stuff. It's easier for us to understand here on this podcast. We'll move on to free agency, because that's been kicked off for, I don't know, close to, 29 hours now, something like that, 29 and a half. It's 5:30 on Wednesday as we're recording this now. So if there are any deals past this, sorry, we're going to have to wait till next week to talk about it. But I think we should start with the Bandits first and then work around the league from there. Buffalo made a bunch of signings. 4 signings from their draft class this last draft in September. David Burr, he was the 74th overall pick. Carter Coffey, he was their 39th overall pick in the third round. Liam Keeney, 75th overall pick, 5th round, and then Jaden Kennedy, the 51st overall pick. All of them are forwards. All of them signed 3-year deals. That's part of the CBA. All rookies now get a 3-year deal. As far as I can understand. If I'm wrong, I apologize. I was trying to get clarification. Haven't gotten it yet. Evan C. signs up for another 3 years because he didn't play, so he needs a 3-year deal, from what I understand. Matt Duncan, he was a 4th-round pick in 2022 from Albany. Yes, when Albany was still in existence. He's a defender. And then the other one is Liam Linden. He is an undrafted player. He's a defenseman, another 3-year deal. So a bunch of young pieces coming in for camp competition. Now, will they all make the roster? Who knows? We don't know what this roster is going to look like right now. Buffalo's already lost 2 players. We're going to talk about that in a second. But there are slowly openings on this team right now, so there are spots. This is the first time we've been able to say that in the 4 years of the show. There are some openings on this team that if you come in and make a big-time camp battle, you can either make a regular spot on the 21 or practice squad spots might be open. So I guess what are your thoughts on those 6 deals? Or sorry, 7 deals. No, 6.
Yeah, I mean,
7. I don't know. Whatever. 7. I counted 7.
Yeah, the big thing with those ones is, like you said, that they're camp bodies, but there's also possibly going to be some openings on this team for the first time in a long time. So usually when we talk about camp bodies, that's pretty much all they are. They come in, they do the best they can. Hopefully they make a name for themselves, either get on the practice squad, get on somebody else's practice squad, find a deal with another team, trade them away, whatever they can, but usually they don't end up on the active roster. But this year they might have that opportunity. And we heard Dietrich say in the offseason, speaking of Evan C., that they do believe that he is still a big part of this team's future and that he's been progressing as a goaltender. So if we have no news of the Matt Vince yet, but no matter what happens with him, signs, doesn't sign, Evan C. seems like he's going to have a really good chance to be either a backup goalie here, the starting goalie. He's a player that until you see him, we don't really know what he is. But it sounds like they still have a lot of faith in his growth and development, even despite drafting a goalie with their first round pick this year. That goalie likely won't be around for 2 to 3 years, most likely even at the earliest. So Evan C. could be a big part of this team, and it could be sooner than we would like, but who knows right now.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about Evan C. right now, I'm still high on what his potential could be, but regardless of the Matt Vince situation, I'm flat out saying it now, without seeing his practice play or whatever, there is 0.0 chance. So everybody that's been saying we can't wait to see him, this is nothing against Evan C., but there is no chance he is the starting goaltender on opening night of the Buffalo Bandits pending something unfathomable happening. There's just no chance you're putting a 21-year-old between the pipes on a team that's looking for a 4P, that has not played a single second of NLL action. Again, I'm very high on Evan C. I love his big body frame, and I love what he's been doing in juniors. I think he can develop into a really good goaltender. But that's just one, it's not fair to the other players on the team, and two, it's sure as heck's not fair to Evan C. for his first-time action being between the pipes. One, to try to lead a team that for a fourth straight championship, and two, to replace the greatest player possibly ever on the field. It's just not fair to him. Steve Orleman is going to be the first nod. Yes, he still needs a deal. He's an RFA right now. But to me right now, if Matt Vince hangs him up, which we're still unclear on what's going to happen right now, but the more time goes on and they don't sign another goalie, the more I'm feeling good about it. And I saw what you put out there, Scott Loeffler, the little tea thing that you put out at like 11:30 on Tuesday night. You're driving me insane. I don't know what that means, but I think it's good, and I don't know if it is good or not, but the comments I'm going insane, Matt Vince. I said I was going to bring back the Mad Manny Minute. I'm doing it because I think you're coming back. But what I'm saying is, the longer time goes on that they don't bring in more goaltenders, it's good news that Matt Vince is returning. Maybe by the time this airs and people are listening, they're already like, Matt Vince re-up for another 5 years, whatever. But it could be good news. But that's all I'll say on Evan C. There is 0.0 chance he is the starting goaltender, so get that out of your mind, everybody. It's not happening. The very best that you can expect is he wins the backup battle. I think that's your best hope for Evan C., that he has progressed enough in the 2 years that he's been on the practice squad behind Orleman and Matt Vince that he has earned the spot to be the backup. But move on. 3 other deals to talk about that are official as of 5:36 on Wednesday. Again, things are rolling in, so I'm trying to do timestamps here. Connor Farrell re-ups for 2 more years. Zach Belter's back for 2 more years, and Dylan Robinson's back for 1 more year. All rights. I believe Dylan Robinson was the only RFA. Belter and Farrell had their rights with Buffalo, so none of those are surprising. I think locking up Belter to 2 years, I think depending on what the back end is, I think he can take another step forward and more responsibilities back there. Dylan Robinson's back for another year. He has yet to see anything but a championship in his career. Same with Belter, and Farrell's back in the faceoff dot for 2 more years. So bringing back 3 main pieces and 2 back end pieces to this defensive core that have been around for a while now.
Yeah, I think Farrell's the only one that I'm not going to say is negative, but you and I are still pushing for the not Fogo, but it seems like the Bandits
it's hard to argue
in.
with a team that's won 3 in a row, been to 5 in a row, and 4 of those 5 they had
difficult.
just a Fogo. It's hard to argue, but we're going to try.
Yeah, they seem to know what they're doing. But it's good to see them just have consistency at the faceoff dot. If that's the direction they want to go, Adler wasn't around for very long. Then Farrell came in mid-season, and now he's been around for a little bit. So if he's going to be their guy moving forward, he's been pretty consistent in what he's been able to do, and he's been continuing to get better and better every season. So if he can continue getting better, then more power to him. Belter, fantastic to bring back. D-Rob, fantastic to bring back. Like you said, I don't think any of that's too surprising, but it's still really good to see them locked up now.
Yeah, sorry, just more news. But we'll go over some other news, not so great, and we're going to kind of talk about real quick, rapid reaction on it. It's been rumored, and there was a big rumor on Wednesday morning, and I eating my own words here, I said it was BS. I said this guy has had he's got one follower. It makes no sense why he would even put out. He hasn't tweeted in like 3 months. It's a dumb, bad rumor. And if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words. I'm here, like I've said, on these 4.5 years, if I'm wrong a lot, I'm coming on here and admitting it. I was dead wrong. It seems like he's 100% right because he said Mitch Jones, which as of now hasn't happened yet, but Chase Frazier and Chris Cloutier were going to Vegas for big time money. Not talking about money aspect, but he was dead right on Chase Frazier and Chris Cloutier went and signed with Las Vegas. Now, this is the first time since maybe Ethan O'Connor that a player has willingly signed elsewhere, leaving Buffalo. This hasn't happened. Like, this is not a common theme. So my first thought was, oh man, what does that mean for Mad Vince? And we can put that aside for now. Because, again, maybe he signs by the time this podcast actually goes out to the wavelengths. But what do you think that means for the rest of the team? Chase Frazier was a second-round draft pick here. He's been a part of this core and has been a part of the championships. Chris Cloutier comes over from Philly in a midseason deal. He's been nothing but successful on this side. You lose your number 2 or 3 option on the right-hand side, and you lose your number 2 or 3 option on your left-hand side. What does that do to the offense that has had the majority of their offensive pieces similar in this entire run?
Yeah, I think the big thing is with this being a championship now team, championship window team, I think it possibly hurts that a little bit if you look at the way the roster is currently constructed. And I know it's, literally in the middle of free agency, so who knows who they could possibly bring in to replace those guys. I don't know if they have something up their sleeve, but if we just go by in-house people, you have Coltrane on the left side, the rookie that they just drafted this year, and then you have Nielsen on the right side, who's been around for the one season. So if those two guys step in and that's their plan, I don't hate it, but you immediately you get younger, which is fine. I'm excited about youth. I'm excited about potential talent of what they could bring, something a little bit different from this offense that has been incredible for so long, but maybe it needs a shakeup of some type. But having those guys be young, you have to worry about how do they fit in with the veterans? Are they going to be ready in time for this team to make a true run through the playoffs? Like normally, we're talking about this all the time at the trade deadline. Normally, the teams like the Bandits will bring in veterans to make that playoff push and make that finals run. If you're bringing in younger guys, yes, it's good for the team as a whole. At some point, you have to move on from, sadly, you have to move on from your core and bring in the next wave of players. It's just how it's going to happen. It's going to happen eventually. So on one hand, that's kind of good. Literally their hand was forced. The guys signed elsewhere. Congrats to them, by the way. Both, like you said, probably going out there for a payday. Good for them. Get paid. Have fun.
Deservingly so. Yep.
Deservingly so. But if the Bandits are going to rely on the younger guys, it's just a matter of, does this hurt their overall ability to win a championship, and does it just take them a step backwards because of trying to bring those younger guys in? They're going to have the rookie mistakes. They're going to have the young mistakes that the veteran players will not have and have already been on this team and part of this core for so long that guys can kind of pop in and pop out wherever they needed to, and everyone knew exactly what that player was, what they were going to do, and how they were going to fit into that core. Now you have to kind of find out how Nielsen's going to fit. What is his game going to look like? What kind of player is he going to be? And same with Coltrane, if he's going to be the lefty replacement over there, if he's healthy enough to do so. What is he going to look like, and how is he going to be different than Cloutier, and how long does it take for everybody's chemistry to gel amongst the entire forward group? So if they go with what they have currently in-house, it doesn't concern me too much in that way. Like, I'm excited for Nielsen. I'm excited for Coltrane if that's their idea on the left side. I'm excited for those guys to bring some youth to the offense, but I still think for chemistry's sake, it could take you a little while to either get them going, or it could be just a full step back a little bit for the offense.
Yeah, just to clarify here, we don't know for sure, but I'm almost positive Buffalo tried to re-sign them. Like it's not like they chose to move on. I think it's the players chose to go to Las Vegas. Again, I don't think this is Buffalo willingly moving on. Again, don't know for sure, but I would put a ton of money on that situation that Buffalo was trying to get them back. But they decided, hey, there's money to be had in Las Vegas. Again, maybe money wasn't the only option here. Maybe he was going to play with Sean Williams. I think Las Vegas is building a fun team here. And for the overall look of the league, if you take off your Bandits fandom hat here and just look at it, adding a guy like Chase Frazier to a team that needs a bump in attendance, he's going to be the absolute face of Las Vegas. He was made for Las Vegas. Like Chase Frazier, his play style was made for Las Vegas. Getting people, and I know they're not on the Strip anymore, but getting people from Las Vegas to go see Chase Frazier, it's going to be a happening thing.
It's going to be a literal Vegas show.
Yeah, they're both coming back to Buffalo. I believe it's in January. So I guess that makes me feel better that Buffalo's actually not going to Vegas. We'll be able to see him. But it gets me thinking, okay, this likely means Ian McKay is a full-time forward again. He's not going to be a dual transition player, so that my dream of him going back to the defensive side isn't going to happen. He's going to be a full-time player up there. You still got Nanakoke up there. Maybe Kyle Buchanan comes back. Who knows what that situation is. But you got Dane Smith. You got Josh Byrne. You got Ian McKay. You got Teo Nanakoke. The offense is going to be okay. It's going to be what the secondary pieces are. So this isn't fire in the streets. This isn't pure panic. And this isn't even me being biased. This is me being a person that covers this team in this league. They're going to be okay. You got two fantastic players, and then everything trickled down from there. It gets me thinking, okay, does that mean Kyle Matisse maybe comes back as a full-time ready forward? Maybe they don't. Maybe they're not ready for a Nielsen yet. If Kyle Buchanan doesn't come back, they have two openings on the right-hand side. I saw Ryan Benesh. He's coming back for another season. I tweeted out, hey, there's an opening on the left side. He could be out there. I mean, you're looking at other options here. Clay Scanlon could be coming back. Maybe he factors in. I know you don't like this name, but Emerson Clark was a part of this team last year as well. Some other names out there, because I didn't think we would actually ever have to do this. Buffalo Joe's still sitting out there right now. Joe Razateris, could they make some phone calls to him and see, hey, do you want to come back to Buffalo? Do you try to swoop in and get a guy that I've loved in the past, Curtis Knight, who's, is taking a step back? You look over the lefties. I don't think it's going to happen. He's rumored to Las Vegas, and he's a West Coast guy, but Mitch Jones is sitting out there. Ryan Benesh is more of an East Coast guy, so maybe he would come back. Corey Small, former Buffalo Bill, or I'm sorry, I did it. There's always one every episode. Brad McCulley's sitting out there. So there are a few players that could fill this gap. I never thought we would actually be looking at forwards in free agency because the forward group has been locked together. But you could be right. Maybe they go for more youth and speed in Nielsen and in Coltrane if Coltrane does sign this offseason. So there are some pieces. It's going to be taking a little bit more time to figure out, but a lot of things are moving right now. A lot of deals are still happening, but that's the Buffalo Bandits aspect of it as of 5:45 on Wednesday. Again, doing this real time because deals are still flying through, but that's Buffalo's aspect of it. Is there anything else that we didn't cover on Buffalo's part of it that before we move on? Okay, Phil's shaking his head, so that's a no. It's not fully confirmed yet by the teams, but the worst kept secret in the NLL is happening. Curtis Dixon and Jesse King are going to Vancouver based on reports. Vancouver is going to be absolutely filthy. Kurt Malowski pretty much laid out this frame that what he was going to do this offseason is go load up on the forward group. So they're going to be absolutely filthy. Quick reaction on Vancouver, because they also signed 4 rookies as well, including Mick Kelly, who is going to be pretty good with Vegas when he develops.
Yeah, I don't like it. They're going to be really good for a very long time. They are going to be a huge nemesis of Buffalo moving forward. They're just going to be, I mean, we've already talked about it a lot in this offseason. It's Buffalo, Saskatchewan, and Vancouver, to me, are still the top 3 teams in the league and kind of a tier above everybody else. I think Vancouver right now with those kind of moves, if they, like you said, rumored, but looking very, very likely, if those kind of moves happen, I think they might push to be the number 1 team headed into the season, depending. I mean, Vince will be literally everything, as we already know, but I mean, even if Vince comes back, I think Vancouver could be known as the team to beat if they add that kind of offensive firepower.
So we did get a big deal that went down. It was hinted on Tuesday, broke on Wednesday. Andrew Q, the cue ball, the clutch Q man, goes to Colorado, along with a 2026 second-round pick and a conditional 2028 second. Like I said, to Colorado for Connor Kelly, comes back east, and a protected 2026 first-round pick. I love this deal. It shakes up Georgia, who I've said for years now needs to shake it up a bit. So they're bringing in Connor Kelly. I was huge on him and huge on the Colorado offense. Colorado's going through a change. Looks like Georgia's going through a change. Massive deal in the NLL. I guess talk about that real quick.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good. Like you said, both those teams, I think, just needed a shake-up. Connor Kelly's been a really, really good player. He's quite the sniper out there. But I think Georgia in general, like you mentioned, needs something to happen on their team. They need some kind of difference. And same with Colorado. I know Colorado's been pretty consistent and good. They just had a ton of injuries, but now their team has been pretty shaken up with the Zed Williams trade, and now this kind of trade, moving Connor Kelly. They're moving some of their core to other teams, to other places, and kind of shaking up their own team. So I do like it for both teams. I think it's a big move for Georgia to get a player like Kelly, but I do think it's good for Colorado as well.
Sorry, out of focus again. Sorry, working on it. Audio, this is great.
You made it worse. You made it much worse.
I did make it somehow worse. What the heck is going on here? Okay, we're going to climb through. There we go. We're back in focus. You get to see the ugly mug. Other deals around the league. Riley O'Connor, the Teat Whisperer, he signs back up for Ottawa for 1 year. Looking around the league, not only did Q get traded from Georgia to Colorado, he signs another 1 year extension. He was set to be a UFA next year. He now is locked in on a 2 year deal. Devlin Shanahan, former Buffalo Bandit, he seems like he's going to be the backup to Brett Dobson out in Georgia now. Halifax re-upped Warren Hill for 1 year. It's not out there in public, but I'm breaking the news here, and I broke it on Twitter. He's locked in for 1 more year on Halifax. Sounds like Brendan Bomberry, that's what I've been keeping track of. Sounds like it's a 2 year deal with Halifax, so he also leaves Georgia, another UFA. They don't sign all their UFAs. What is all happening this Georgia offseason? I'm going to have to probably talk positively about them this offseason. Brendan Bomberry, 2 year deal in Halifax. Looking at Colorado. Colorado kind of re-signs everybody. Tim Edwards, 1 year deal. Jordan Gillis, 2 year deal. Robert Hope. Obviously, we got bashed last time because nobody listens to the podcast. They just look at the graphics and go, oh, Robert Hope's not going anywhere. He signs a 1 year deal, the captain of Colorado. Oh, former name that we mentioned, Reese Barnes. Remember him from last offseason? He signs a 3 year deal with Colorado to kind of compete in camp for that. Philly signs Eric Fennell, who was in Ottawa and Albany last year. So that's, I think it's 3 players so far that have left in free agency for other teams, not including Chase Frazier and Chris Cloutier, we talked about. Phil Caputo goes back for 2 more years in Philly, and your boy Mitch DeSnew, he accepted the franchise tag in Philly. Big one, Kyle Rubish leaves San Diego. He goes, signs a 1 year deal in Oshawa, and then we kind of went over Vegas, but they also add Tony Malcolm, a 1 year deal. He played in Philly last year, so Philly hurting a little bit. Oshawa adds a big-time defenseman, former Defender of the Year, and first-team All-Pro and all that kind of stuff, Kyle Rubish. And then, obviously, Vegas is going to be fun to watch. But I guess what are your thoughts on the other deals that went down so far?
Good for Shanahan. Good to see him still out there, still kicking and doing his thing. Riley O'Connor, like you said, huge for Ottawa. Halifax with Hill, they are riding with him again. Bomberry is a pretty solid signing for them. Probably a little underrated, but I do like it. Reese Barnes, sad to see him get a 3 year deal. That kind of locks him in there for quite a long time.
He could still be cut in camp. Remember, the 3 year deals are mandatory now for rookies.
Tim Edwards, Gillies, Hope, obviously, most likely always going back. Fennell in Philly. I'd have to go back and look at where we had people signing to. I thought we had him going somewhere else.
I was looking earlier. I think we've been okay so far. We've have some hits and misses.
We'll have to go back and see how we're doing with our checklist. Rubish.
I was going to do that. Huge. We'll probably do that next week or the week after. We'll review how we did well into like July before this whole delay happened too.
Mitch DeSnew, I do firmly believe, unless Philly is really pushing for playoffs, it doesn't necessarily mean Buffalo to me, even though I would still love it. I think he got the money that he wanted, and I think he has the ability to go at the playoff deadline to a team like Toronto if they're pushing for playoffs, like a team like Buffalo if they're pushing for playoffs. So I think he did what was best for him, got a ton of money, and can still probably be traded at the deadline to any other team that is making a playoff push, assuming Philly is not. We'll see what they end up being. Rubish is huge for Oshawa. That's a really, really big addition for them. He's a fantastic, fantastic player. And then, like you said, we already talked a lot about Vegas, but Vegas is just making some really good moves. And it's good to see them doing something. I feel like we've talked about them kind of sitting on their hands for a little bit, trying to kind of teeter. They were always half in, half out, trying to push for it without really having the pieces to push for playoffs and really make a run. So now it seems like they're making some bigger moves to try to build that team up, and I like what they're doing.
Yeah, Sean Williams was trying to save his job, both as GM and head coach. But before we head out of here, as of, again, 5:53 on Wednesday, here are some big name free agents that are still sitting out there as of now that we really haven't heard any whispers about. I'm not going to include the guys that have had whispers about. Joe Reseter still sitting out there. We mentioned him. Keegan Ball, I would be shocked if he goes anywhere but Vegas. You got Kevin Crowley in Vegas, or I'm sorry, I keep saying Vegas, Vancouver. Kevin Crowley sitting out there. Tom Schreiber, Captain America, is still sitting out there. Curtis Knight. You got Seth Oakes from Georgia. Then you look at the lefties. You got Ryan Benesh, Casey Jackson, Corey Small, Dan Craig, Riley Lowen, Turner Evans, so on and so forth. You look at the transition players. Does Jordan McIntosh end up back in Georgia, or does he look for a championship elsewhere? Brandon Goodwin. You got Shane Simpson still sitting out there. Joey Caputo. You got Jeremy Thompson, Chris Corbeil. Then on the defensive end, Brad Kreese still sitting out there. Toronto's been very, very quiet. Ryan Dilks, I would be shocked if he goes anywhere but Vancouver. I was right the first time. Got Mike Manley sitting out there, Ryan Wagner, and then goalies. It's really Nick Rose. And latest I heard, there were 3 teams involved. And with Warren Hill going back to Halifax, Toronto or Rochester, those have been the 2 big names that have been mentioned with Nick Rose. So that's your big goalie left right out there on the market right now. But some big names still on the market. A lot of things are still transpiring. So as of 5:54 on Wednesday, we're shutting it down here. So any other signings past this point, if we haven't covered it, we'll cover it on the next show. But I guess the last bit of pieces I got to say is, please, Matt Vince, one more year, man. That's all I'm asking. Is that too much to ask for one more year, Phil? Am I asking too much? No. Am I going to have to bring back the Mad Many Minute? Everybody out there, all Buffalo Bandits fans and anybody across the league that has any hope and dignity in my sanity here. Hope Buffalo doesn't make any goalie moves besides Matt Vince. If they make a goalie move, it's bad news. If they don't, by the time now until this is what I'll put on record here. And if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words again. I'm used to it by now. If Buffalo doesn't make a goalie move from the 5:55 mark on Wednesday, October 22nd, to the time we record next Tuesday, Matt Vince is returning. If they make a move, that's a different discussion. But if no goalie moves are made from now until next Tuesday, Matt Vince is returning. You've heard it here first. Maybe.
What if they swoop in and Nick Rose comes here?
Then Matt Vince is still not returning, so I was still right. But we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for sticking with us, and thank you for dealing with us for 1 day delay, because we kind of wanted to put this off one more day because free agency really kicked off now, and I'm going to go back to looking at my phone nonstop for the next week now. But that wraps up this one. We'll break down Bills versus Carolina on the next episode. Sabres have 3 games, maybe more positive. Fingers crossed, just entertaining games, not even wins or losses. Who cares? Just entertaining games. And then we'll go over everything else that's been going down in the NLL. Maybe we'll start our team breakdown of the offseason, because we're in rapid mode now. We got like a couple more weeks of our offseason schedule before we break it down and go back to 2 episodes a week in December. Phil, anything else to add before we shut it down for another week?
I do actually like this version of free agency. I hope they do it again in the future. Just rapid fire, everything. Just 2 days, nonstop, signings, deals, everything. It's really exciting versus the very long, drawn-out summer of free agency where you're just like, oh, here's a signing, here's a signing. This is some exciting stuff.
Yeah, I'm having so much fun over here. I can't enjoy it. I wish we had more interns. We got to hire some interns here to keep track of all this. But that wraps up this episode, though. Thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Thank you to Tap That Tap Room for sponsoring this episode and this podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Producer Pat, still waiting on you. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you leave us that review on Apple and Spotify. Matt, Vince, don't make me bring it back. I won't do it. Till next time, bye-bye.